Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. This is Major League Baseball, Tuesday, April 2nd. A little bit of a last-minute show here. We were unable to record the night before. Unfortunately, I sent this out on Twitter, so hopefully you got the update. If you're with us on Dub Club, you got the update as well, of course. Had some data issues trying to figure out how, some of that early season, how do we get all the data in together, reflecting what's happened this year, which I wasn't really worried about for the first few games. 2 games or whatever wasn't going to change how we felt about a team's offense or set of relievers. But we're now back to starting pitchers pitching for a second time. And we have now, 5 games for a lot of teams. And so trying to get all that sorted through just took a little bit longer. I thought yesterday was Mrs. Professor's birthday. We have family in town, all sorts of complications. Just wasn't able to do one. Didn't think we'd get one in today. But I was able to work through those data issues and get today's stuff out sooner than I don't want to say expected. You just never know. All right, so I don't want to promise anything. I was afraid maybe this update wouldn't come out for another 2 hours. But here we are. It is now 1:30 Eastern. We're still 2.5 hours for our first pitch of the first game. We have all the projections ready to talk about these games. So you will get this before first pitch of the first game, of course. But again, if you're not with us in Dub Club, you're missing out because I sent out the kind of rough draft projections and not much changed, only a couple of things. One of them, which is the Astros we'll talk about, which I told people about, that's going to change a little bit as well because former Valdez, of course, is a guy we've already talked about this year. But you already got a lot of looks at those. And we're going to talk today, several of the totals that hopefully you locked in last night on Dub Club. Some under 9s are now 8.5s, and that push protection matters. You got all that info if you're on Dub Club with us. Again, appreciate you. If you're over there supporting this little business venture, you are helping us out tremendously. If we're helping you make money, consider signing up, if nothing else, as a thank you. But you will get a lot more information, summary of the picks, the Discord chat group where we have people looking out for each other, giving people tips. A lot of times I drop useful tidbits there in that Discord that I can't always get out to everybody. But what I'm seeing, what's happening, live stuff, and all sorts of goodies over there in that Discord chat group. So check us out on Dub Club if you haven't yet. That QR code or the link in the show description will get you started with a 10-day free trial. So no reason not to check it out. I think it'll be worth your while over there. Okay. Otherwise, though, we will get right to it here. Hopefully we can continue yesterday's and so far this season's good ways here, but we're going to pass on the first game, Twins and Brewers. I don't really have anything that I like in this game right now. It's priced pretty well. It's going to be a very cold day in Milwaukee. They'll be able to close the roof on that, so it's not going to really adjust the total there, but the total market's priced pretty right. The side market's priced pretty right. I've got this as pretty much a coin toss game. Louis Varland and Jacob Junis, a pair of righties. 2 pitchers who are pretty similar. We're a little bit higher on Varland, but not by much. We're a little bit higher on the Twins offense, but we're a little bit higher on the Brewers bullpen, even, of course, without Devin Williams. And the game's in Milwaukee. All that just puts us at a coin toss game. That's about where it's priced. I don't really have anything. And, of course, by the time you're watching this, that game may have already started anyway, so it's not really a big deal. We're just going to pass on that game. If you have to play it, there is a first 5 C grade that we give on Dub Club. That would be, I guess, what I would tell you to do if you had to. If you're with us on Dub Club, you get all the first 5 information. Otherwise, though, just not much to talk about here to start off. But we will here for the night games have a bunch of great ones, including Royals and Orioles. This is one of those ones I mentioned. I believe it is now most places 8.5. We locked in under 9 last night, minus 115. As we've long talked about, that push protection on 9 is really valuable. I wouldn't play this at under 9 minus like 135 or 140 or something because it's not worth it at that point because, 9, it's going to happen a lot in baseball, and it protects you in that 4-4 game. It's not quite like hockey, where hockey has a lot of games concentrated on 5 and 7. Baseball has more games at 7 and 9, but they can get a lot more variable than that. Partially because in hockey, a team has a lead and they kind of shut things down. And because it's a time-based sport, so you're trying to kill the clock. There's no killing the clock in baseball, so you have to keep trying to score runs. So you end up with more spread amongst your runs. So we don't want to pay too much juice for this, but if you pay a little bit of juice for that 9, push protection is worth it. Under 9, minus 115, A grade. If you're playing under 8.5, that is a B grade pick as the model projects 7.6 runs. Alec Marsh for the Royals, not projecting very well. And Cole Orvin only projecting average. And I don't like this Royals bullpen. You say, well, why in the world are you in the under with the Orioles offense as good as they are? It's because Baltimore has played as a pitcher-friendly park ever since they moved left field back whenever that was last year, 2 years ago, I can't remember. And that minus 18% is one of the most extreme weather adjustments you're going to see here all season long. We're going to get some big negatives here, some big positives come July and August, but most of the time it's not going to be quite this big. 50-degree temperatures, wind blowing in at about 10 miles an hour, going to be insanely pitcher-friendly weather. The only thing about this game, it might not finish. It might not happen. We don't know yet on the weather. So this is one to keep an eye out. And we saw it yesterday with the Braves. We talked about the weather a little bit. Weather issues happen more so in April than any other month. It's kind of a nasty month to play baseball. In really May is when things start getting nicer for us outside for most of this country. Game might be stopped after 6, 7, 8. Have some rain late. We're almost assuredly going to have to play through some rain. We're almost assuredly going to have a delay. We may just get a postponement. Heck, this game might be postponed while I'm recording this show. There's a couple others in that same boat. We don't really know. It's kind of one of those, if things turn a little bit this way or a little bit this way, we may get 9 in. We may get 7 in. We may get 5 in. They may just say, we don't want to play it. It's early. We can make it up later. This is cold, nasty weather. Just don't know. So that's something to keep in mind here, because if you're betting the full game total, it will only pay out if it goes in 9 full innings. It doesn't matter if you're a winner or a loser. And we caught that yesterday with the Braves on the run line, an easy winner that didn't pay out if you played that -1 market. If you did like I did, created the -1 market, you at least won the money line, but you didn't win the run line, even though they were up 9-0. So they didn't get that last inning in. The idea is more for the 2-1 game and 3-1 game. We don't know what would happen in that last inning. And so that's why it's in no action. Otherwise, where you draw the line, right? Because obviously in that one, the Braves are going to cover the run line. But otherwise, you have to be, are you up by whatever runs to cash those bets or whatever. So just cancel all of them. Moneyline bets will play no matter what. So the alternative way to look at this would be a first 5 under if you wanted to. The price there right now, -110, under 4.5. Not a bad look. I'd obviously like 5 there. Would be better that push protection, but I don't think it's worth the juice on it. So if you wanted to split your bet or play a little bit of first 5 because the possibility this game doesn't get 9, that's a way to look on it. But if nothing else, if you are playing the money line or a first 5 market, as long as the game goes 5, those will all count. Reds and the Phillies here yesterday pushed the under 9 in a game that frustrating, a grand slam in the 10th inning. Otherwise, we had an easy winner on the under, and so just couldn't quite collect that. But obviously, Baltimore, Philadelphia, very close together. You're going to see the similar situation. Everything I just said about the weather in Baltimore holds in Philadelphia. Mid-40s, so slightly cooler. Even wind will be blowing a little bit in, a little bit across, but a little bit more than 10 miles an hour. Chance of rain there as well. Just don't know what's going to happen with this one. So all those same things I said. But as the previous game, we're going to go under 9. A great pick. It was -117. We locked this in last night. 8.5 now, and under 8.5. As long as the odds are holding at a reasonable, even money type thing, probably still B grade value if you're laying some juice on that. Probably more C grade value. This model projects 8.1 here. So projecting a little bit more runs in this one. Partially due to the fact that the ballpark is not quite as pitcher-friendly to start with, as you can see there. It's a pretty neutral park there in Philadelphia versus the pitcher-friendly park in Baltimore. I can't believe I'm saying that after all the years it was so hitter-friendly. But again, a big weather adjustment, which is why we like the under. Otherwise, Graham Ashcraft and Spencer Turnbull, not great starting pitchers, probably slightly worse overall than the previous game, or at least pretty close to it. These are some of the games now we're at the 5th starting pitcher. It ain't great. The Reds bullpen ain't great, but the Phillies offense maybe not quite as good as the Orioles offense. Despite having some big names there, they really lack depth once you get towards the bottom of the lineup. So all that to say, going under again. First 2 games, weather issues, under 9, A grade, locked them in both last night. You got those if you were on Dub Club. So many reasons to be with us over there. If you're playing 8.5, still probably would look at it, but don't like it quite as much. So it's scale back on your units if you haven't gotten it at 9. Don't pay too much juice for that. 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Angels at the Marlins. Got the easy over last night. As over 8.5 cash once it got to 4-4 in the whatever it was 6th inning. We're going to go over 8.5 again. I believe it's still 8.5. So the number hasn't changed there. Still reasonably priced odds. A grade pick. same thing I said yesterday pretty much applies here today. You've got a decent starting pitcher here for the Marlins, Max Meyer last night, Jesus Luzardo here tonight. But this Angels offense is pretty good, and you saw it last night that the Angels get a lot of crap for how terrible they were in previous seasons, of course, and all the injuries and the fact that they wasted Trout and Ohtani, of course, and all that is very fair. But when this team is healthy, which has been part of their big problem, they have a good offense, and you can see that on screen there. They're a good offense. They're a little bit right-handed heavy, which makes them hit lefties better, which is what's going to kind of nullify the edge that Jesus Luzardo has over a lot of teams. Very good starting pitcher. On the other end of it, I don't really love this Marlins offense, but I don't really love Tyler Anderson for the Angels either, a 110 grade. And it's the same thing I said last night, that the Marlins should be able to score not because they're good, but because the pitcher they're facing isn't great. So it's a very similar setup to last night. Of course, the benefit to this over is that the Angels bullpen is not very good. It's probably a little better than last year, but not by much. Should be fairly normal night, ballpark weather, everything wise. Models projecting 9.1. We would go over 9 if we had to, but we really would love plus odds there because 9 is, of course, possible. But over 8.5 is an A grade here. Hopefully we can cash it just like we did last night. Rangers and Rays, we got us an easy winner with the Rangers last night for a lot of the reasons that I had mentioned on show. I think it kind of played out pretty well. For this one, we have no pick. The model would lean you towards Tampa Bay here at 61%. That would be a C grade pick on the Rays. As I mentioned, though, the model likes Zach Eflin a lot. I'm not saying it shouldn't. He gets an 85 grade. He looked great last week. And I think that's the problem with Zach Eflin. Watching a lot of the Rays starts, because the model liked him all last year. We made a lot of money off of him last year. But he has that like one inning every once in a while, like he did last time, where he just can't find the zone, can't find his spots, whatever happens to be, and things go sideways. And this Rangers offense is good, of course. So that's kind of the fear of laying a price with the Rays. I think a C grade is pretty accurate here for the Rays. It's not an official pick for us because I don't really think it's worth investing in. It's just that's what the model would assign a C grade. If you had to play it, that's not a bad look. There's also a first 5 pick that was sent over to all of our people on Dub Club. That might be a decent way to look as well. The Rays will have the advantage here. As much as Zach Eflin, as much as I love him, but as much as I'm worried about that one inning where things went awry like it did on opening day, he's still a much better pitcher than Andrew Heaney. There's no denying that. We faded Heaney a lot here last year, and that worked out really well for us. These offenses are both pretty good. The Rays are a little bit better against lefties. When he gets to the bullpen, the Rangers bats might have an edge, but 2 decent offenses here. But the Rays will have the edge. They're at home with the pitcher. They should be favored, but it's priced fairly well. So if you had to play it, maybe look Rays. As a reminder, though, and I said this already here this season, if you've been with us, I imagine with the late recording, everybody here who's watching this has already seen this and heard me say this, but as a reminder, a bad pick does not become a good pick just because you put it in a parlay, right? So don't just be like, oh, the Rays are favored, I'm going to throw them into a parlay because they're the favorite. That doesn't make it any better because you still have the same risk reward profile, whether you're playing it straight or as a parlay. And the minus 150, minus 155 or whatever, it's not like the worst price in the world. It's just not that good. So if you have to maybe just sprinkle a little bit on the Rays, but know that you're paying a premium for the team that's more likely to win, but it's not like it's great value. Okay, this is almost classic what I expect to see a lot of times with baseball. And it hasn't happened a ton yet, but we're going to have it happen more and more as the market kind of figures out what we've known about some of these teams here. We're going to start getting into this like, yeah, this team's favored. They're more likely to win. The price ain't great. And that's exactly what we have here. Again, the first 5 pick is the other thing you can look to. If you're with us on Dub Club, you have another angle for this game. No official pick for us on that one, as the official recommendation is pass. Tigers and Mets. Folks, this is one that I'm a little surprised they haven't already postponed it. The weather here in New York, I say here, I'm not in New York. The weather for this game in New York looks the worst of all. Real good chance of rain to start. Real good chance of rain as the game goes along. They might have a little bit of clearing, but the best case scenario is they're playing half this game in the rain. And maybe a slight rain, but like that's not fun. It's early. It's cold. It's low 40s. So there's a lot of reason. Now, the reason you don't postpone this is interleague matchup. You don't have a lot of opportunity to make it up quite like a divisional game. But weather-wise, this is going to be nasty. So I don't think this game is going to happen. If you ask me, I wouldn't be playing this game. I'd go ahead and postpone it, move on, try a doubleheader, reschedule later in the year or whatever. I'm not looking at schedules, so I don't know how feasible that is. If it happens, Under 8, A-grade pick. It's just like some of the ones we locked in under 8 last night on Dub Club at 7.5 now. I still think 7.5 makes a lot of sense. You don't have as much value on the push protection as 8 as you do 9. It is possible, of course, but the model's projecting 6.8 runs here. So 7.5 makes a lot of sense to go under because 7's your most likely outcome. Or it may be nothing going to the 10th like last night. These two offenses can struggle, as we've seen. The concern is starting pitching is not great. Both these guys are very meh. But the bullpens are solid, and it's just going to be massive pitching weather. And that's what helped us last night, have no runs until the very end of that game until we got the extra innings. But you got a pitcher-friendly ballpark in what's going to be wind blowing in at 10 miles an hour, cold temperature. I mean, everything screams under in this one, even though the starting pitchers are great. But I'm not sure what happens. If it does, though, under is the way to look. 7:40 p.m. Eastern, Rockies and the Cubs. We're going to play this one very similar to what we talked about yesterday, which is playing the Cubs. It's in the morning, so the run line's out now, and we're going to official pick, go A-grade Cubs -1. For this one, we're going to create that -1 market. No rain issues for this one, so we should be able to get 9 innings in. Interesting weather situation. Wind will be blowing kind of across, kind of out. That's going to be a little bit of boost to bats, but low 40s is going to kind of counteract that. So not really sure on the total. This one has a high variance, I think. If the wind's blowing a little bit more out for lefties, it's more out to right field. So for the lefties, it'll help a lot, but the cold temperature is going to really knock the ball down. So kind of a battle of two things are happening with the weather. But with the regards to the side, I'm still standing by. The market does not realize how bad this Rockies team is. You can see there on the screen, one of the worst offenses in baseball. Again, I mentioned it yesterday, and I mentioned a lot. They end up being benefited by Coors Field, but when you do all the park neutral stats, it is terrible. And of course, they're not at Coors Field here today. Kyle Freeland, one of the worst starting pitchers in baseball, did not look good last time. Worst starting pitcher who's kind of in this ace category, I should say. He's better than a lot of 4s and 5s. I think the model just does not like him, though. 2 standard deviations below league average, so just nowhere near the caliber of what should be at the top of their rotation. He got hit around pretty bad last time out. So I just don't know why this price isn't higher than it is. You can play money line, you can play run line. Again, I like to play both here. The -1 price officially here is -133. That's if you're betting both the money line and the run line. That's kind of the implied odds at the end if you bet exactly what you make on the money line on the run line. Of note here, sometimes these numbers move a lot, especially when you're doing these -1 markets. That happened to us yesterday with the Braves. We recorded that show at night and were able to get a sub 200 price on the -1, but that number went out of control, and overnight price skyrocketed on the Braves. We're recording this a lot closer to game time today. This is a one-off. We're going to be recording typically the night before. So again, it's why you want to be on Dub Club, because you get the picks before I even record the show, because I don't know what I'm talking about, right? So you get that before I record. You get it right away, so you can get the current numbers. I never know when the prices are going to move. I never know which way they're going to move. They tend to go towards the model, but not always. So sometimes it pays to wait, but you just never know, especially on some of these favorites. Go ahead and just lock them in before the price runs away. And the Braves were a great example of that yesterday. Shouldn't happen to us here at this time of day. Cubs -1 the pick. They're not a great team. They're just very average. Average bullpen, average offense, average starting pitcher here in Javier Assad. But there's nothing really to like about this Rockies team on the road. They're a strong home field advantage when they're home. We'll get to that later on in the season. For now, it's a pure fade of the Rockies. Crosstown, Braves and the White Sox. We're going to go under 9 on this game. We played the under 9 yesterday. It double pushed. It pushed because there were 9 runs, but it pushed because it didn't go 9 innings. And I talked about it on as one of the picks I love was the first 5, under 5 yesterday, and that cashed. We're going to go under 9 again here. Full game as the A-grade pick. Pretty reasonable odds on this one. It's going to be the same weather, of course, here in the south side as it is on the north side, with very chilly temperatures, kind of being a little bit of a battle with the wind. Here, the wind's going to be blowing out 10 to 15 miles an hour. So the model still says the temperature matters more than the wind, because you're talking about around 40 degrees, the ball just does not carry. But that wind blowing out is going to make it not as bad. If there was no wind, this would be a big minus here. If the wind was blowing in, you might be talking about minus 20% because it's so cold and the wind's going to be pretty strong. But I think we're going to have more pitcher friendliness on the weather than hitter friendliness on the weather. The White Sox can't score. You saw it yesterday. The Braves bullpen is fantastic. Ronaldo Lopez is very respectable, of course, coming from the White Sox here in previous seasons. To pitch for the Braves, very, very solid pitcher. Garrett Crochet, a lefty for the White Sox, looked fantastic in his first start. I think he can keep the Braves at bay. Obviously, the Braves are big favorites. They should be big favorites on this one. You are paying quite a premium for it, so just be leery of that. Obviously, the Braves offense is fantastic, so they can put up runs on you. But Crochet looked really good that first start, and this pitcher-friendly weather, I think, is going to tamp down the runs enough. Under 9 A-grade pick there on the south side of Chicago. As last night, one game starting at 8-10, kind of interesting. Astros, of course, coming off of a no-hitter, a game where we got the over despite one team having 0 hits. What a time to be alive here for us. And we're going to again go over 8.5. B grade pick at about even money as the official pick here. This is going to be a very interesting start here for Framber Valdez. We talked about it earlier this season. Did not look good his first start. Could have been a lot worse against the Yankees. The Yankees offense is good. It's better than the Blue Jays. Blue Jays offense not quite as good as maybe it was a couple years ago. But the Blue Jays offense is right-handed heavy. We've talked about that for a few years now, and it still hasn't changed. They're better against lefties. That doesn't bode well for Framber. Blue Jays offense still above average. That doesn't bode well for Framber. He hasn't looked good in quite a while. I really was optimistic on that opening day start, thinking last year he struggled at the end of the year, and that was maybe fatigue, maybe the little injury he had. I believe it was in Anaheim right around the All-Star break, whatever it was. He did not look sharp. I don't know what that means. It's one start. How do you react to that? The model has taken his grade from low 70s to upper 70s. It's taking note. If he has another bad start, it'll be low 80s. It's going to adjust. Doesn't want to overreact, but doesn't want to underreact. So I don't know here. The Astros are priced at a reasonable price here. The Blue Jays tend to get a little bit too much respect. People think they're better than they are. So it's Astros or pass. I personally just don't love putting my money on Framber Valdez at minus 150. I'm not saying minus 150 is a bad price for the Astros at home with their supposed ace in the mound. I just want to see Framber look good and not just no runs good. I mean, I want to see him hit his spots. I want to see him, not kind of fall apart a little bit. He's had that tendency here, especially in these struggles where he just kind of mentally loses it. I just want to see some good outings from him before I really feel confident backing him, especially considering that first start of the year just felt like a complete repeating of what we saw the back half of last year. He was a very different pitcher than he was in the first half. This guy can be one of the best pitchers in baseball. He has the potential to be a Cy Young winner almost every single year, it seems like. Okay, so I'll have my eyes on Framber. So if the Astros are pass, I'm passing on the Astros. I'm just going to play the over 8.5. Why is that? The Astros offense, you can see, can put up 10 runs. They get a much tougher starting pitcher in Jose Barrios rather than Bowden Francis, who was a guy that said, hey, that's the type of guy for them to tee off on. But I love the push, not the push protection, but the win on 9 here in a game that could go 4-4, just like opening day when the Astros faced off with Framber Valdez against the Yankees and Nestor Cortez. Cortez and Barrios look pretty similar here. The Astros can score some runs. Barrios, not bad, but I like the Astros bats here to continue scoring. And I think the Blue Jays are going to put up some runs against Framber. I just don't trust him to have a great start. So I'm going to go over 8.5. Model projects 8.9. I love that we get the win on 9 here, over 8.5. Even money B grade pick. Into the late games here, Cardinals at the Padres. Going to be a pretty chilly night there in San Diego, kind of like normal, around 60 degrees. Wind will be blowing in for this one, which will make it a little bit more pitcher friendly. The total's low. It should be low. So there's really not a ton to talk about there. Kind of as in any game, you can kind of look first 5 under with the Padres. It hasn't worked necessarily in all the games. Last night, you took the first 5 under, it missed by half a run. And then, of course, the full game, depending on what number you got, might have gone under. It might have won on the under, might have pushed. So, it's not necessarily always that simple. But in general, with the Padres bullpen being not great, that's not a crazy way to look. It's not a pick I love, though. The pick I do love on this game, Padres, minus 132, A grade value. The model gives them a 61% chance to win. Why is that? Well, their bullpen, obviously not good, and that's where the Cardinals have an edge, is the only place the Cardinals don't have an edge. The Padres have a massive starting pitcher edge with Yu Darvish, who's looked pretty dang good in his 2 starts this season against Miles Michaelis, who did not look good in his first start this season. Not that those 3 starts are the biggest shift in the world. We thought Darvish was the better pitcher coming in, but the Padres have a better offense. It's not as good as it once was, but the Cardinals' offense is really not as good as it once was. A lot of people on my talking about it's not the same offense as it was in years past. Padres have the better offense by about a full standard deviation. They have the better starting pitcher by about a full standard deviation. They're at home. They should be priced more like minus 160 probably. So minus 132 is the A grade play on the Padres. Going to be holding our breath that the bullpen can hold on for us. But in general, if they're up 4 or 5 runs, it shouldn't matter. You might look towards first 5. So a lot of people watch the show and they try to listen to what I'm saying and because there are other, things. And honestly, it's not bad. Sometimes I kind of ramble here and try to say everything I can think of. Sometimes I'm afraid to say the things I mean to say, but you try to glean it and maybe make a different pick. This one's one, a lot of times, anytime the Padres are involved, I look towards a first 5 market because I don't like their bullpen. Here's the thing. You're paying a steeper price on the first 5 on this one, and the model says the value's a little bit less. So you can look towards the first 5, but I'm just cautioning everybody on that. You're not getting better value on the first 5. That's not the case always with the Padres. Of course, it's always one to look at. But while I don't like the Padres bullpen, the Cardinals bullpen's better, sometimes the market prices that correctly. And in this case, the adjustment, that the differential that they're making between full game and first 5, they are making it more likely that the Padres win the first 5 than win the full game because the bullpen differential. Because if it's a tight game late, the Cardinals are going to have an edge. And so I'm not saying you shouldn't play first 5 Padres. I'm just saying the price out there, the market has accounted for it. So you're not getting any extra value. So that's why I'm going A grade full game Padres, and I'm not touching the first 5 because I just don't think there's value at the current numbers. Sometimes the market misses that. That's when we want to strike. I don't think this is that case. Another interesting market situation, talk about Red Sox today. He's been talking about the A's, how bad they are. They're not the worst team in the league. They have looked like it absolutely at times with all the errors they've made. Folks, we are going to start not being able to fade the A's, which is sad. But hey, don't be sad it's over. Be happy that it happened, right? That's the way we got to look at it. We're back on the Red Sox again tonight, minus 138. Folks, it's only a C grade. We were able to play that as the A grade play of the day yesterday, which was a lot of fun. With that run away, I mean, we're just cruising here at that game. The market's starting to adjust to this and kind of pricing the A's as bad. Here's the other thing. Their relievers, they actually have like 2 guys at the back end of the pen that aren't bad. And I talked about this with the A's, and they were able to win that game Sunday. If the A's hang around, Mason Miller's a great closer, I think. He's great for the A's. He's a good closer. He's a good pitcher back there. They got a couple guys that, but they don't have any depth. You can see it on screen. Their relievers overall grade out as terrible, but they got a couple arms, and that's the same thing that happened last year. When they hang around, they get to use all their good arms, and they get better. When they don't, they get destroyed. The Red Sox bullpen, not great. Their offense, not great. And here's the thing. The Red Sox are a little bit left-handed heavy. That doesn't bode well against Alex Wood. Now, what does bode well against Alex Wood is it's Alex Wood. Not a great pitcher, as you can see there on screen. But there's a gap between here. I'd rather have Brian Bayo than Alex Wood. But, games in Oakland, the A's offense isn't terrible. Oakland versus a righty, Boston versus a lefty is not that big of a deal. The back end of the A's bullpen's as good as the Red Sox bullpen. Now, the A's get a weekend home field advantage because there's like nobody at those games, but they still are playing at home. There's a tiny bit of advantage. I still like the Red Sox. Model's got them at 60% to win. But minus 138 is only a C grade. We are running out of time, I feel like, to fade the A's. We're about to enter the point where there's just not much value fading them, I believe. That's my projection. And then at some point, we'll start backing the A's in the right situations. They have the right pitchers in the right spots at the right price. Right now, we're nowhere near that. I would not be playing the A's. It's Red Sox or pass, but I'm just letting you know I like the Red Sox here. I think minus 138 is a pretty good price. Don't get carried away with it. The value's not as much there as you would think because the Red Sox against the lefty does not project well. So the value's not quite as good as it was here on the first game of this series where it was fantastic value. So like the Red Sox, but only a C grade. I'm playing them, just not quite as much as we did last night. Guardians at the Mariners. Couldn't quite get there with the Guardians last night. One swing of the bat gets the Mariners, whatever it was, 3 of their 5 runs. The Guardians fall 5-4 in that one, so just couldn't quite get there. Today we're going to shift gears. We're going to go back to the under. We like these unders in Seattle. Of course, here's the thing. The weather, wind will be blowing out tonight at 10 to 15 miles an hour. And of course, they have a roof, but it's not enclosed. So the wind does affect that. It'll be a chilly night in Seattle, though, and it's a massive pitcher-friendly ballpark on average. So notice the weather adjustment is relative to the park. What I mean by that is a park that normally experiences colder weather, when it has colder weather, doesn't get a weather adjustment because it's already built into the park, because the park factor, the park adjustment, is based off the average conditions at that park. It's usually chilly in Seattle, right? So if you took these conditions and put them in Cincinnati, it would be a minus weather adjustment, because 50 degrees isn't very common for Cincinnati. You have it a few times, of course, but your average temperature in Cincinnati at first pitch is probably low 70s, if I had to guess. So, we are already adjusting for the colder temperatures because it's already built into that park factor. It's already a pitcher from the ballpark. Other reason we like the under, of course, Luis Castillo, Shane Bieber, 2 very solid pitchers, sub 80 grades. Is a very solid pitching matchup here. 2 good bullpens. The Mariners, as you saw, were able to hold off last night. The Mariners, as I mentioned, are losing a little bit of depth in their bullpen, but the back end still looks strong, as a couple of the guys that were I think they're only down to 1 guy that's injured now, if I remember correctly. So that bullpen going back the right direction. Of course, the Guardians bullpen, we love them. Both offenses are just average. Average offenses against these pitchers, this bullpen, this park, under 7 makes a lot of sense. Even money, B grade. I'd love to win at 7, but I think this number should be 6.5. The model says 6.6. You don't see a ton of 6.5s in baseball. When you do, you got to kind of pause there, because it's not hard to get to 7. Okay, so if it's 6.5, not playing the under, because 7 is very possible. Playing this because that push protection is valuable here, and the even money matters, but it's still not an A grade. Okay, 7.5, even if you're all talking like minus 115, minus 120, that might be an A grade. Okay, don't lay too much for that. Of course, as always, be careful about the odds. I'd rather play better odds than anything else, because this game could go 2-1 or it could go 5-4, right? So don't go crazy with that. But the under is the way to look here. Under 7, B grade. Even money. Of course, as always, you can look at the first 5. Some of these first 5s in Seattle have worked out. Some of them haven't. A game like last night, their first 5 would have gone over, and the full game would have gone over. We've had some where, I believe Sunday, the first 5 went over, but the full game went under. And then we've had some, like, I believe both Friday and Saturday, the first 5 and the full game went under. So, those are obviously correlated. So be careful playing them both. But in general, a first 5 with these starting pitchers in that park makes a lot of sense. But so does the full game, because these bullpens both grade out really well. And so I like the push protection on 7. The extra innings that we're going to play reduces the variability. I'd be looking at an under first 5 if they price the full game correctly at 6.5, because then I just don't like going under 6.5 unless it's, the perfect situation. If it was 20-mile-an-hour wind blowing in 40 degrees in Seattle, sure, let's go under 6.5, right? But we need the perfect conditions to go under 6.5. So that's when I'd look more to only playing the first 5 under. This one, you can split if you want. I think full game makes a lot of sense. So under 7, B grade, even money there. Then for the PM, Yankees, Diamondbacks. Got the Yankees yesterday. Today, though, we're going no official pick. Nice weather in Arizona. If they open the roof or don't, it shouldn't change too much. There is a first 5 look you can make on this that's out there on Dub Club. If I had to play it, the first 5 suggestion on Dub Club is what I would do. I think it might be good just to save your money, though, invest in other places, hold your money and live to see another day. This one's priced fairly well. The Diamondbacks are favored. They should be favored. Zach Gallen is a great pitcher. Nestor Cortez, struggling a little bit here. Struggled in his first start, not quite as good as he was a couple years ago, but the Yankees have a great offense. So, it's kind of a pretty good balance here. You got a solid Diamondbacks offense against an okay pitcher. You got a great Yankees offense against a really good pitcher in Zach Gallen. Games in Arizona lean Diamondbacks, but they're favored. So it's just hard to say there's a lot of value on this game. I think it's priced pretty well. As much as I love Zach Gallen, you can obviously look at some pitcher props if that's the way you want to go. But again, if you're with us on Dub Club, the first 5 pick over there is probably your best value and probably what I would do if I had to, but no official pick on this one for our free show picks, just because I don't think the full game markets are offering us anything quite like the value we're seeing in the other games. And we'll wrap up with the Giants and Dodgers. No official pick on this one. This is one of the reasons we said to be on Dub Club, because we don't have starting pitchers confirmed. So there's not really a line out there that I'm going to invest in, because this might be Tyler Glasnow. It might be some form of a bullpen game with Grove and Stone and Yarbrough and who the heck knows out there for those guys. And that massively changes things because Tyler Glasnow's a really good pitcher. So it's hard to say. This is projecting Yarbrough as the bulk guy for the Dodgers. He's very average. He's been an average pitcher for a while now. He had one season where he looked pretty good for Tampa. But, if it's him, the Dodgers should be favored. They have the better set of relievers. They have the better offense. But, of course, going up against Logan Webb kind of counteracts that, and I would make the Dodgers very small favorites. If this is Tyler Glasnow, then the starting pitching edge is almost wiped out, and now you say the Dodgers have the edge at offense and they're at home. You can see there with the relievers the issue the Giants are having, and this is what we talked about previously with them on one of the shows. Giants bullpen games do not project very well this year versus last year. They don't have the depth. You can see that on screen. The overall relievers grade out of a 119. The top relievers are a 91. Of course, Camilo Doval, part of that. Very good reliever. They got a couple good arms on the back end, but the 1 to 6 full guys that they have to use, that they're going to have to use if their starter doesn't go deep, not good. Now, here's the benefit for the Dodgers today. Logan Webb, you feel pretty confident he's going to be able to get you 6 innings, right? Especially after he's already had a start. You never know against the Dodgers. Anybody can get run at any time. But in general, Logan Webb's one of the stronger pitchers in baseball. We all know that, right? So the benefit for the Dodgers tonight, and the reason why they got a chance tonight, especially if it's Yarbrough, is your game plan's pretty simple. Get Logan Webb 6 or 7. You got good back end guys, and you never have to have a shaky pitcher throwing against maybe the best offense in baseball. I think, according to Sideline, the best offense in baseball. So that's how you hang in there. That's why they're almost 50% to win. The downside is, especially if it's Tyler Glasnow, is your starting pitcher edge is nullified. They got a better offense at home. So it really just depends on who's pitching. So no official pick right now, but on Dub Club, we will update once we get a starting pitcher. We'll run that through the model. If it changes, we'll pull the current lines in, and we'll send out what the best looks are if there's an official pick or not. But right now, again, kind of a toss-up-ish game if it's Yarbrough. If it's Glasnow, the Dodgers should be bigger favorites. So maybe by the time you watch this, maybe you already know. Maybe it's the information's happening right now. I have no idea. But a couple different ways this game can go. Dub Club gets you all of those updates. That's all we've got here then for today. Again, reminder, join us on Dub Club Discord, all the picks, all the starting pitcher change updates, all the summaries, all the information, and picks when you can't watch the show. 10-day free trial, link in the show description. Otherwise, we should be back to a normal schedule here, recording Tuesday night for Wednesday games. So if you're up with us late Tuesday night, or it'll be ready for you in the morning when you wake up on Wednesday. Hopefully we can continue that schedule, 5 to 6 days a week, like normal going forward. Otherwise, though, again, if you haven't checked them out yet, BetUS first 3 ever deposits, 125% bonus. Always going to be shopping around, always going to be getting the best prices, always going to be getting the best numbers. I say it every show, so you should have checked them out yet. But if not, link in the show description. Check out BetUS if you haven't yet.
BetUS, America's favorite sportsbook and casino. Live betting and racebook. We're celebrating 30 years with a historic offer. A 125% sign-up bonus on your first 3 deposits. Plus 10% gambler's insurance. Get started today. BetUS, where the game begins.
Otherwise, thanks for watching here this last-minute show here for Tuesday. Game starting soon. Hopefully you have a great night, and we'll see you tomorrow.